brother. Ride it, brother. On your feet, call line. 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 Ride it, brother. On your feet, call
Shalom, shalom, family. Shabbat, shalom, shalom. Peace and love and blessings. You see the title? Say that Shabbat, right? The Sabbath, Saturday, the worship day, Sunday, seventh day. Who knows? But we're going to talk about the Sabbath today. A full depth and detailed talk about the Sabbath, all right? So, you already know. Get your Bibles out, get your pen pad out, get your pens out, and let's have church. The Shabbat. The Shabbat. The first mention in the Bible about the Shabbat or the Sabbath. Exodus 16:23. And he said unto them, This is that which the Lord hath said. Tomorrow is the rest of the holy Sabbath unto the Lord. Bake that which you will bake today, and seethe that you will seethe, and that which remaineth overlay up for you to be kept until the morning. So technically, this is the first time the word Sabbath or Shabbat is used, but it's not the first Sabbath, right? I'm going to show you that in a second, but this is the first time it's used in Scripture, the actual word Shabbat, right? So, with that being said, what is the Shabbat, right? What is the Sabbath? Let's look at it. The Shabbat, 876:76 Shabbat, right? It is intermission. That is specifically the Sabbath, right? Every Sabbath, right? So it's like a break, right? A break or a rest period. But I'm gonna get into that too. But it's like a break, right? So a break throughout the week, intermission, something where it's a stop. You know, you've been to the movies and you ever seen like a long movie? They'll have an intermission or a sporting event, halftime. It's an intermission. There's a break. You go, use the bathroom, go get refreshments. It's a break. Same thing as us. We got a break. 6 days shall you work, and then you get a break, right? But I'm jumping ahead of the gun. So let me show you. Leviticus 23, verse 3. 6 days shall work be done, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of rest and holy convocation. You shall do no work therein. It is the Sabbath of the Lord in all your dwellings, right? That's the intermission. The seventh day is the intermission. So we got to really figure out what's the seventh day, because people always wonder, is it Saturday or the Sunday? We believe it to be Saturday, as the Bible states, and I'll just show you, because any typical calendar will show you this, Sunday through Saturday. We all know Sunday the first day of the week, so why wouldn't Saturday be the Sabbath? Right? Unless you're looking at it through nightfalls, how the Bible looks at it. Technically, the Sabbath starts Friday night and it ends until Saturday night, right? But it's still laying on the Saturday, which will be the Sabbath, right? But 1, 2, 3, 4, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? For this to be the Sabbath, this will have to be the first day of the week. And you'd be like, what's the first day of the work week? Well, they used to work all the time. So this is actually a new work week, right? They wasn't always working on Monday, starting Monday. Sometimes they work from Sunday to Saturday. And then they say Henry Ford came up with that method, the 9 to 5, right? So that's what that's about. Friday throughout the week for 9 hours. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or however you put it. But they used to work every day. So you can't count that. But most calendars, if not all calendars, start in Sunday. But I'm going to go over it and show you more things, right? So rest, that word can also be Shabbat, right? It's 876:73 though. It says a root to repose, that is desist from exertion, used in many implied relations, causatively, figuratively, or specifically. Cause to let, make to cease, celebrate, cause make to fail, keep, Sabbath, suffer to be lacking, leave, put away or put down, make to, rest, rid, still, take away. So sometimes you may celebrate, you cease, you stop doing certain things. That's a Sabbath. It's a rest day, So this word can also be used, right? I'm gonna show you the examples of it being used and that, right? So this word rest is different than the other one in certain contexts, but that's why I told you that was the first time the Sabbath word was used or Shabbat was used, but the first time rest, which is also a word that's used as Shabbat, right? The first time rest was used. I'm gonna show you that, which was in Genesis chapter 2, verse 2. It says, on the seventh day, God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. That word rested right there with Shabbat as well. That's why I know that Saturday is a Shabbat, at least the seventh day of the week is. So we got to figure that out, right? But whatever the seventh day of the week is when God took his break, that's the Shabbat. That's Sabbath. That's the rest, right? Exodus 34, verse 21, it says, 6 days thou shalt work, but on the seventh day thou shalt rest. In earning time and in harvest thou shalt rest. Now notice, this one says 6 days shall they work, but on the seventh day is the Sabbath for rest, right? But this one just says 6 days shalt thou work, but on the seventh day thou shalt rest. So it doesn't mention the Sabbath part because we already got that now, but that's still, they're reiterating the rest because they go hand in hand together, right? On the Sabbath, you should be resting, right? And resting can also be deemed like, spending that time with God. You might got to refuel and recharge and get yourself prepared back for the week. God may got some more assignments for you. You got to rest and recharge. Got to take a break, right? So that's basically the Sabbath in a nutshell, right? So with some things about the Sabbath, right? This is one of them. No work, right? So it says no work, right? So let me show you. It says 6 days, Leviticus 23, verse 3, 6 days shall work be done, but the seventh day is a Sabbath for rest, a holy convocation. You shall do no work therein. It is the Sabbath of the Lord in all your dwellings. Leviticus 23 and 7. In the first day you shall have a holy convocation. You shall do no servile work then. Right? So we have got it wrong. I was even wrong at one point, in my journey. I'm going to show you what I mean by it's wrong. The Jewish people would tell you that they don't turn on lights. You can't use the stove. There's no cooking and stuff like that. So before when I was married, before that, my ex-wife, she would cook before, like cook on Friday, like before you go to work, like cook something in the crock pot, so she wouldn't be cooking and breaking laws, right? But this word work right here, right? This word work is talking about servile work. It's not the same as that, right? The word is malakah, right? Or malaka. It is 4397. It says properly deputyship, that is ministry, generally employment, never servile or work abstractly or concretely. Also property as a result of labor, business, cattle, industrious, occupation, occupy, officer, thing, made, use, manner, work, manship, right? So I teach people when I was, before I started my church and stuff, and we were just coming together as gatherings, I was teaching people that, you're not supposed to cook, right? Because I'm thinking that's what it is, but that wasn't a biblical law. It wasn't a real Hebrew law. It was Jewish law, Judaism. This ain't Judaism. It's just the word of God. So I was teaching people wrong, and I apologize to the ones I was teaching wrong. But you don't have to work, right? I mean, you can cook and stuff, and I'm gonna show you. Passover, Leviticus 23, verse 6. It says, on the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread unto the Lord. 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. Well, in order for you to eat bread, you got to make it. That would be a problem, right? Okay, let's say that's not the Sabbath day or a Sabbath day. First fruits. Leviticus 23:17, it says, you shall bring out your habitations, 2 wave loaves of 2 tenth deals, and they shall be a fine flour, and they shall be baked with leaven, and they are first fruits unto the Lord. Well, you got to bake again. This is a holy day, right? A Sabbath day. You got to bake again. Tabernacles, Leviticus 23, verse 41, it says, and you shall keep it a feast unto the Lord 7 days in the year. It shall be a statute forever in your generations. You shall celebrate it in the 7th month, right? It says you shall keep a feast. So within 7 days, we know that 7 days, you're going to at least hit a Sabbath, right? It's going to be a Sabbath at least on the 7 days, and it says you should keep a feast. So you still got to be making food. It's okay to cook on the Sabbath, right? Jewish people tell you can't cook on the Sabbath. This is the work that you can't do on the Sabbath. This is the work, your job. You're not supposed to do your job on the Sabbath, right? Some people may have jobs and stuff right now, and you work on Saturdays. Hey, you following God, God understands. But if you don't want to work on Saturdays, because like I said, God don't want you to, you ask God, and God make it a way for you. But people so real, so hesitant to believe God's power, and they be like, "Well, I can't get off on Saturdays." Well, you can't get on Saturdays. That don't mean God can't get you off on Saturdays, right? But that's another topic about belief. But this is what he's talking about. This is Nehemiah chapter 13, verses 15 through 20. It says, "In those days saw I in Judah some treading wine presses on the Sabbath." Notice it's on the Sabbath, all right? "And bringing in sheaves and laden asses, and also wine, grapes, and figs, and all manner of burdens, which they brought into Jerusalem on the Sabbath day. And I testified against them in that day wherein they sold victuals. There dwelt men of Tyre also therein, which brought fish and all manner of ware, and sold on the Sabbath unto the children of Judah and in Jerusalem. Then I contended with the nobles of Judah and said unto them, What evil thing is this that ye do, and profane the Sabbath day? Did not your fathers thus, and did not our God bring all the evil upon us and upon this city? Yet you bring more wrath upon Israel by profaning the Sabbath. And it came to pass that when the gates of Jerusalem began to be dark before the Sabbath, I commanded that the gates should be shut, and charged that they should not be opened till after the Sabbath. And some of my servants said, at the gates there should no burden be brought in unto the Sabbath day. So the merchants and sellers of all kinds of ware lodged without Jerusalem once or twice. So notice this is a key part when I was telling about the day start at nighttime, which I'm going to show later in the day, later in the video. It says, and it came to pass, this is verse 19, and it came to pass that when the gates of Jerusalem began to be dark before the Sabbath, I commanded that the gates should be shut. So the Sabbath starts at nighttime on Friday night. That's how days start in the Bible. They start at nighttime when the sun goes down, not 12 o'clock in the morning. That's the hour of the witch, right? So I just had to put that in there, right? But when you go back up, if you look, they're not selling bad things. They're selling wine, grapes, figs, stuff that we all use, right? Stuff we all use, eating things. But he keeps saying the Sabbath, y'all profaning the Sabbath because you're not supposed to work. You're not supposed to be doing your job on Saturday. That's the time you're supposed to be resting and being with God. So, right? It's supposed to be on Saturday. Saturday is your time with God, your rest time with God, the worship time with God, church. So you so busy about focusing and getting money and working and doing this and door dashing and Uber eatings and trying to do real estate or whatever you're doing, and you're supposed to be out here focusing on God all day. Whether you just even sleeping all day, that's fine. God can work on you through your sleep, but you're not supposed to be out here working and trying to get money on the Sabbath. You're supposed to be doing what God wants you to do. Rest, right? So Yeshaya taught on the Sabbath, right? The Sabbath is everything, right? It's part of the law, it's part of the rules. This is Luke chapter 13, verse 10. It says, and he was teaching in one of the synagogues on the Sabbath, right? Notice it says he's teaching on the Sabbath, right? Luke 4:16, and he came to Nazareth where he had been brought up, and his custom was he went to the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up for the read, right? Notice it says Sabbath day. Luke 4:31, and came down to Capernaum, a city of Galilee, and taught them on the Sabbath days. It didn't say it taught them every day, but on the Sabbath days he teaches them. Well, that's school time, that's church time, right? The world would teach you it's different. Oh, the Sabbath is any day we want. To God says the Lord of the Sabbath, we can do whatever we want. Yeah, Christ is the Lord of the Sabbath, but that don't mean you change the Sabbath day. And there's a reason why you don't change the Sabbath day, and I'm going to get into that in a second. So Christ died on the Sabbath day, right? He died on Passover. I showed you the days of the calendar, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Same way Christ would have died, right? As the Passover. This is Matthew chapter 26, verses 1 through 5. It says, and it came to pass when Yeshaya had finished all these sayings, he said unto his disciples, you know that after 2 days is the feast of the Passover, and the Son of Man is betrayed to be crucified? Then assembled together the chief priests and the scribes and the elders of the people unto the palace of the high priest, who was called Caiaphas, and consulted that they might take Yeshua by subtlety and kill him. But they said, not on the feast day, lest there be an uproar among the people. So they can't believe that they about to kill this man on the Passover, right? But they are. But he knows this. He has to be this. And I'm going to show you why he has to be this, because it's all part of the way God wants it done. Matthew 26, verse 17, it says, now the first day of the feast of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Yeshua, saying unto him, where wilt thou be prepared for thee to eat the Passover? So the Passover is actually the first day of unleavened bread, right? Or it's an extra day, but it's the first day. That's how it starts. That's why they're eating unleavened bread. They're getting prepared to roll in, because the Passover is the same as the night of the Exodus, which is I'm about to show you, right? John chapter 19, verse 31, it says, the Jews, therefore, because it was the preparation that the body should not remain upon the cross on the Sabbath day, for that Sabbath day was a high day, for that Sabbath day was a high day, besought Pilate that their legs might be broken and that they might be taken away. So they would leave the bodies on the crosses, right? And then the next day, the Romans would come out and get them. But it's already Passover, right? But now they're going into unleavened bread, which is a high holy day, right? So they took the body off the cross, right? They took the body off the cross, and that's when they wrapped up Christ and buried him. But they know that because they say it's a Sabbath day, and then they say it's a high Sabbath day, right? Which is a holy day or feast day, which would be unleavened bread, right? And you can find that when you're when you're reading, right? Say you reading in the Bible, especially when you're reading, you can read like a eastward or something, right? When you're reading eastward, when you go to Leviticus 23, right? Verse 20, chapter 23, verse 4 through 8, it's the Passover, right? But the Passover and unleavened bread is one, right? So this is all one combined. So that's what this was talking about. But people won't know that because they're so busy worried about Christmas and Thanksgiving. So you wouldn't know what the holy day is, right? How would you know? This is what I'm saying. You see this? Leviticus 23, 4 through 8. It says, these are the feasts of the Lord, even holy convocations, which you shall proclaim in their seasons. In the 14th day of the first month, right? So 14 days, I'm going to tell you 7th day is Saturday. So the 14th day would be the next Saturday. And the 14th day of the first month at even is the Lord's Passover. And on the 15th day of that same month is the Feast of Unleavened Bread unto the Lord. 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. And the first day you shall have a holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein. But you shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord 7 days. And the 7 days of holy convocation you shall do no servile work therein, right? So it's telling you that it's multiple Sabbaths in this one, right? Where you're not supposed to do no work. But all this, if you read a Bible, like I say, you read through Eastward, it's categorized as the Passover. It's all one. That's why I said they were preparing for unleavened bread, and he said, "What did prepare the Passover?" Because it's all one. It's one shebang. That night, when Moses spread the lamb, that was the Passover, right? And it's doing the unleavened bread through that morning. And I'm about to show you. Exodus chapter 12, verses 2 through, I think it's 12. Yep. This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. So this already letting you know that it should be the first month of the year and not January. We will get into that too. This month is the beginning of the months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, in the 10th day of this month, they shall take to them every man a lamb according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for a house. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your account for the lamb. The lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. You shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats. And you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the morning. Right? A lamb without blemish, what they call Christ, the lamb. No blemish, flawless. He's perfect. Christ was flawless. He was perfect, no sin. Right? He's a male of the first year. He's firstborn. Just like they'll tell you get a male of your first year, right? Okay, cool. No problem. Still along with the Passover, verses 7 through 12. And they shall take of the blood and strike it on the two side posts and on the upper doorposts of the house, wherein they shall eat it, right? And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roasted with fire and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Eat not of it raw, nor sawn it at all with water, right? But roast with fire, his head with his legs, and with the appearanceness thereof. And you shall let nothing of it remain until the morning. And that which remaineth of it until the morning you shall burn with fire. And thus you shall eat it with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and I will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord. So notice it said they got to eat it in haste because they got to get out of there, right? Because that's when Pharaoh was like, y'all can have my people. You have your people back. They had to get up out of there, right? So they had to eat with their food on, clothes. They had to be ready, right? Everybody catch the bus for school. But notice it said that you should eat the flesh in the night, roasted with fire with the unleavened bread. But remember when the tables were breaking bread, he was saying it's the body, right? And then the blood is the drink, right? The blood is covering, just like Christ about to get on his cross and cover. So the lamb's blood covers you to protect you, right? And Christ is the lamb, and his blood covers you, protects you. It's the same thing. But Christ has to do it the same way it was done back in the day. So he got to die on the Passover. Christ didn't die on Wednesday. Christ didn't die on Sunday. Christ didn't die on Friday afternoon. He died on Saturday, right? Because you have to be doing it the same way it was done back when Moses was there, right? When they did this, it was Saturday night. As I showed you, it's the 7th day, right? You go back, it says on the 14th day um, would be that. And I'll show you later on when I show you the calendar. So I'll go back to this, right? So that would be the 14th day, right? So the Sabbath, right? This is how we know the Sabbath got to be in our lives because they were doing the Sabbath after Christ was born, after Christ was dead. So Christ's death, they're still doing the Sabbath, right? It's all throughout the book of Acts. Acts 13, verse 27. For they that dwell at Jerusalem and their rulers, because they knew him not, nor yet the voices of the prophets which are read every Sabbath day, they have fulfilled them in condemning him. So they're still following the Sabbath. So anybody talks about Christianity, which I make a video on too, Christianity, this is the Sabbath day, right? Who told you Saturday was Sunday? Who told you it was changed, right? Don't confuse Paul writings. They're still doing this on the Sabbath because the Sabbath is very important because it keeps track of time, right? Acts 13, verse 42. And when the Jews were gone out of the synagogue, the Gentiles besought that these words might be preached to them the next Sabbath, right? So they're looking for the next Saturday to come, or the next Sabbath at least, right? The next Shabbat. Acts 13, 44. And the next Sabbath day came almost the whole city together to hear the word of God. So everything is still being done on the Sabbath. They didn't say nothing about changing nothing. They get one scripture and say that Christ rose the first day of the week or whatever, and then they talk mixing up with Paul talking about uh, any day can be the Lord, but no, that ain't nothing changed. Remember the Sabbath, keep it holy. Acts 18 verses 4. It says, and he reads in the synagogue every Sabbath and persuaded the Jews and the Greeks. Right. It's always there. So let me show you about this time tracking situation, right? Sabbath tracks time. The Sabbath does a lot, right? I went over this before the feast, but I figured I'd make a separate video just for the Shabbat family, right? Sabbath tracks time. Daniel chapter 2, verses 20 and verse 21. It says, Daniel answered and said, blessed be the name of God forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his. And he changeth the times and the seasons. He removeth kings and set up kings. He giveth wisdom unto the wise and knowledge to them that know understanding, right? Because God knows all this, right? This is what he do. But they'll think they can change times, but God is the one to do all that. He the one to change times, move kings, but they'll do that. And they'll do it with the calendar, right? Which is being said right here. So this is Daniel 7:23 verses 25. It says, thus he said, the four beasts shall be fourth kingdom upon earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it into pieces. And the 10 horns out of the kingdoms are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse, right? From the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and a dividing the times. So I showed you that to show you this one. This one says God is the one who changes the times and the seasons and the kings. This one is about the devil. He's trying to change times, but notice it says he thinks. This one don't say he thinks. This one says God does. He changes those things, right? This one says this person thinks to do it. It's a complete difference. God is the Most High. Satan said, I want to be like the Most High, right? It's not the same, right? And we got to start understanding that, those who believe in the word. Genesis chapter 1, verses 14, it says, and God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years, right? And years. The Sabbath tracks time, right? Psalms 104:19. He appointed the moon for seasons. The sun knows it's going down, right? So the moon is tracking the seasons and the time, right? And the sun knows it's going down. The reason why this is there because when you're following the moon and the months and things like that, right? This is how you're able to track time, right? Track time by Sabbath. You count Sabbath. So 7 times 52 is 364. It's not 365. It's not 366. Because when you do that, it shifts everything. So now there's an extra day in the year that doesn't belong. And this is where people who do follow or try to follow the holy days, which I'm, happy for, they're trying to do it. This is why the Passover is Saturday one year, next year is on Wednesday, because you're following the calendar of the Jewish people. Don't follow that calendar. It's the wrong calendar. You follow an even 7-day calendar, a 364 12-month calendar. right? From the book of Enoch, right? The book of Jubilees talks about it too. There's the book of Jubilees, chapter 2, verse 9. It says, and God appointed the sun to be a great sign on earth for the days, and for Sabbaths, and for months, and for feasts, and for years, and for Sabbath of years, and for Jubilees, and for all seasons of the years, right? So God said the sun is a sign that also counts the days on the earth, right? To show you the Sabbaths, to show you the months, the feasts, because the sun does different things during different times. It gets closer in certain areas, it gets further in certain areas. You might not see it all day, then sometimes you might see it even longer. This is how you tell time, right? But the time is attached to the Sabbaths and to the moons, right? To the feasts. So we won't forget it. This is why remembering the Sabbath is a part of the Ten Commandments. This is why it's holy. Right? They'll tell you, well, Christ didn't say that again, because they already know that, right? They got that. They understand the Sabbath. They get it, right? He reiterating stuff or giving them a spiritual knowledge about things they don't understand, right? So the Sabbath tracks feasts. The book of Sirach or the book of Ecclesiasticus is Sirach 43, verse 6 and 7. It says, he made the moon also to serve her season for a declaration of times and the sign of the world. From the moon is the sign of feast, a light that decreaseth in her perfection, right? So the moon, right? This is a sign that feast may become whether it's full moon or not. But it can also mean moon and months, right? Because a moon is also in the Bible, it can mean months, right? So it could be like a new moon. It could be saying a new month, not necessarily a new actual moon cycle or phase that the moon goes through when you see half a moon, a whole moon, and whatnot, which is basically just the light in the moon, because the moon is like a real transparent light. Leviticus 23, verses 15 to 16, right? And you shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave of offering. 7 Sabbaths shall be complete, even until the morrow after the 7th Sabbath shall you number 50 days, and you shall offer a new meat offering unto the Lord. So this is talking about first fruit. After the Passover and stuff, right? You count 7, and you do it 7 times, right? Which give you 49 days, and then you add the other day, which is 50, and 50 is Pentecost, or Penti. That's 50. That's how you get there. But the only way you get it is when you count Sabbaths. And when you count Sabbaths, you won't get lost. You may not know exactly what day of the week it was, but as long as you still count Sabbaths, you'll know that Pentecost is coming or fresh fruits is here, right? Feast of Weeks. You'll understand that. But that's what happens when we're listening to people and theology and not the Bible. The Bible telling you where to go. It's telling you how to move. We're not listening to the Bible. Leviticus chapter 23, verse 24 says, speaking to the children of Israel, saying, in the 7th month and the first day of the month shall you have a Sabbath, a memorial of blowing of trumpets, a holy convocation, right? So we're saying the first day of the month or the 7th month is going to be a Sabbath. So you're having a holy convocation, you're not supposed to do no work. So that would tell us that it's probably necessarily going to be on a Saturday, right? Because you're having a holy convocation. It says that it's a Sabbath, right? And it's a feast day. Cool. Psalms 81 and 3. Blow up the trumpet in the new moon, right? In the time appointed on our solemn feast day, right? So this is the Feast of Trumpets. You blow the trumpet because it's also it's a feast day, but it's also a new moon, which is a new month, and it's also a new moon, which is a new season, right? So that's the beginning of fall, which we're doing soon, this coming Saturday, right? It's a new season, so there's no more summer. Summer is over. So now the fall is in, right? So the Sabbath is very important. Leviticus 23:34 and verse 39. It says, speaking to the children, saying, the 15th day of the 7th month shall be the Feast of Tabernacles for 7 days unto the Lord. So that will start Saturday night, right? Saturday night, or, you just start it from days. It'll be Sunday, right? That's the 15th day. Right. And it says also in the 15th day of the 7th month, when you have gathered in the fruit of the land, you shall keep a feast unto the Lord 7 days. On the first day shall be a Sabbath, and on the 8th day shall be a Sabbath, right? Because it'll actually start on a Saturday. I'm sorry. So it wouldn't start it wouldn't start on Sunday. It'll start on Saturday. And the reason why is because this first one, I apologize. This one, the trumpets will be the first day, and that first day start on Saturday. See, that's what I'm saying. So it starts on a Saturday, right, or the Sabbath. So that means 14 days, right, will be another Sabbath, or 15 days, or the 15th day would be this day, right? If you're counting it, like that, because it is start from the beginning of the week, which would be Sunday. So the first day would be Sunday, like in the beginning of times where God first made the world. Sunday would have been the first day. But since this is on the Sabbath and it's a new moon, all this stuff is happening on Saturday, right? So that would be the first. But I'm going to show you on the calendar in a second, right? Sabbath clears debts, right? The Sabbath does a lot of things, and we got to understand the Sabbath, right? Leviticus chapter 25, verses 1 through 4, it says, And the Lord spake unto Moses in Mount Sinai, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When you come into the land which I give you, then shall the land keep a Sabbath unto the Lord. 6 years thou shalt sow thy field, and 6 years thou shalt prune thy vineyard, and gather in the fruit thereof. But in the 7th year shall be a Sabbath or rest unto the land, a Sabbath for the Lord. Thou shalt neither sow thy field nor prune thy vineyard, right? So even on the 7th year, you're supposed to get a land to rest, right? Because there's a Sabbath day and there's a Sabbath year, right? The Sabbath is just so important, right? We got to understand that the Sabbath is connected to so much, right? When it's dealing with God. Leviticus 25, verses 8 through 10. And there shall number 7 Sabbaths of years until the 7 times 7 years, which is 49. And the space of the 7 Sabbaths of years shall be unto thee 49 years, just like how it is for Pentecost. Then shalt thou cause a trumpet of the Jubilee to sound on the 10th day of the 7th month in the day of atonement. Shall you make the trumpet sound throughout all your land. And you shall hallow the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout all the land to all the inhabitants thereof. It shall be a Jubilee unto you, and you shall return every man into his possession, and you shall return every man into his family. So even through a Jubilee year, if you had somebody that you was owning, right, that was a servant for you during the Jubilee year, you gotta let them go. And you had somebody's property, you gotta let them go, right? And it's still the same way. So you got a Sabbath, like the Pentecost, which is 50. You got a Sabbath for the Sabbath year, which is the Jubilee. That's 50, right? God is very, very constructed. He's very structural, very orchestrated. The problem is we so out of order because we've been following man so much and not realizing that it's all wrong, right? Leviticus chapter 25, verse 23 to 28. It says, the land shall not be sold forever, for the land is mine. For ye are strangers and sojourners with me. And in all the land you're possessing, you shall grant a redemption for the land. If thy brother be waxing poor and have sold away some of his possession, and if any of his kin come to redeem it, then shall he redeem that which his brother sold. And if the man have none to redeem it, and himself to be able to redeem it, then let him count the years of the sale thereof, and restore the overplus unto the man to whom he sold it, that he may return it unto his possession. But if he not be able to restore it to him, then that which is sold shall remain in the land of him that have brought it until the year of Jubilee. And in Jubilee it shall go out, and he shall return it to his possession. Right? So if you lost something, you still would get it back during the time of the Jubilee. Verses 29 to 34, and it says, And if a man sell a dwelling house in a walled city, that he may redeem it within a whole year after it is sold, within a full year may he redeem it. And if it not be redeemed within the space of a full year, then the house that is in the walled city shall be established forever to him that brought it throughout his generations. It shall not go out in the Jubilee. But the houses of the villages which have no wall around about them shall be counted as fields of the country, that may be redeemed, and they shall go out in the Jubilee. Notwithstanding the cities of the Levites and the houses of the cities of their possession, may the Levites redeem at any time. And if a man purchase of the Levites, then the house that was sold and the city's possession shall go out in the year of the Jubilee. For the houses of the city of the Levites are their possessions among the children of Israel, but the field of the suburbs of the cities may not be sold, for it is their perpetual possession. See, God had rules. They got rules. The Israelites were just not following them. Just like today, we're not following the rules. And this is why we're in such a bad state, because the Gentiles is ruling. And the Gentiles rules is crazy. But God has rules for everything. He got rules for bankruptcy, losing property, death, all types of things, sex, all these. He got rules for everything, right? And if you follow those rules, things can get established, things can be done and fixed. The problem is people break rules and want to make their own rules because they don't like God's rules, because God's rules got barriers on them, right? It got holds on them. It got things you can't do, right? But people don't want to do that. People want to be free, which is cool. That's fine. You can be free all you want to, but you being free, it also causes problems, right? So the Most High has Sabbaths. The world has Sabbaths, and that's what I was saying about Sunday versus Saturday. You got to get on the right day. Ezekiel 23:38. It says, Moreover, this they have done unto me. They have defiled my sanctuary in the same day and have profaned my Sabbaths. Right? Notice he said, my Sabbaths, my sanctuary, stuff that belongs to God. Right? That's ownership. Isaiah chapter 1, verses 9 through 15, it says, Except the Lord of hosts had left unto us a very small remnant, we should have been as Sodom, as we should have been like unto Gomorrah. Hear the word of the Lord, ye rulers of Sodom. Give ear unto the Lord, unto the law of our God, ye people of Gomorrah. To what purpose is the multitude of your sacrifices unto me, saith the Lord? I am full of burnt offerings of rams and the fat of fed beasts, and I delight not in the blood of bullocks, or of lambs, or of he goats. When you come to appear to me, who have required this at your hand to tread my courts, bring no more vain oblations. Incense is an abomination unto me. The new moons and Sabbaths, the calling of assemblies, I cannot away with it. It is iniquity of the solemn meeting. Your new moons and your appointed feasts, my soul hateth. They are a trouble unto me. I am weary to bear them. And when you spread forth your hands, I will hide my eyes from you. When you make many prayers, I will not hear. Your hands are full of blood. Notice it says your new moons and your appointed feast days, because people created their own moons, their own fast, their own feast days, their own Sabbaths. He didn't tell you that January was the beginning of the month. The world told you that. He didn't tell you Christmas was his feast. That's not Christ's birthday. The world told you that. I showed you the feast day in Leviticus chapter 23. I told you what the Sabbath is. It's the seventh day, right? So when you do all these things, God's not accepting that offer. He don't care about that. But that's what they were doing. They were serving multiple gods. They were trying to please God by doing things. So we're gonna celebrate St. Patrick's Day and we're gonna give up to God. God don't care about that. You might care about it, but as you can see, God don't care about that, right? Never forget the Sabbath. That's why I say you don't forget the Sabbath, because the Sabbath is the thing about time, right? You keep track of time, you won't be lost. Colossians chapter 2, verses 16 through 18. Let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink, or respect of a holy day, or of the new moon, or of the Sabbath days, which are a shadow of things to come. But the body is of Christ. Let no man beguile you of your reward in the voluntary humility and worship of angels, intruding into those things which ye have not seen, vainly puffed up by his fleshly mind, right? So don't nobody get you stirred up or changed and stuff like that because your holy day or your new moon or your Sabbath. You believe in that because that's what God wants you to believe in, and you stick to it. But don't let nobody convince you, well, we don't got to celebrate that. That was for the Jews. That was the Old Testament. They don't say that. This is the New Testament right here. And Paul telling them, hey, don't let nobody do that. So what they'll say is, see, holy day wasn't the meat and drink. That's saying you can't judge me for eating pork and doing this. That's not what it's talking about. Because Paul is talking to people who know the law. So that's not people don't. That's something that people don't understand. He's not talking to everybody. He's talking to people that know the law. Everybody can see it now, right? Once they wrote the scriptures, but these letters are going to church elders. They know the rules, so he's telling them on the Sabbath days and stuff like that. So don't get mad when somebody clowning us for being on the Sabbath or clowning us for upcoming thing. We the world say, oh, the summer ends September 31st or whatever, September 27th. And I'm telling you, the summer ends August 29th, right? Because that's when God said it ended. You don't listen to the world, because the world gonna have you all confused, right? I'm gonna show you. It's the book of Jubilees, chapter 1, verses 12 through 15. It says, and I will hide my face from them, and I will deliver them into the hand of the Gentiles for captivity, and for a prey, and for devouring, and I will remove them from the midst of the land, and I will scatter them amongst the Gentiles, and they will forget all my law and all my commandments and all my judgments, and will go astray as to new moons and Sabbaths and festivals and jubilees and ordinance. See? So they'll go astray once they was in captivity. They'll forget all these things and go and not remember. And after this, they will turn to me from amongst the Gentiles with all their heart and with all their soul and with all their strength. And I will gather them from amongst all the Gentiles, and they will seek me, so that I shall be found of them. And when they seek me with all their heart and with all their soul, I will disclose to the bound in peace with righteousness, and I will remove them the plant of uprightness with all my heart, with all my soul, and they shall be for a blessing and not for a curse. And they shall be the head and not the tail. Right? So it's saying that they'll forget all these things once they get captured and taken by the Gentiles, which the Israelites did. They forgot all these things, right? But we don't look at it like that. Jubilees, chapter 6, verses 23 through 30. It says, on the new moon of the first month, and on the new moon of the fourth month, and on the new moon of the seventh month, and the new moon of the 10th month are the days of remembrance and the days of the seasons and the four divisions of the year. These are written and ordained as a testimony forever, right? So all those new moons, the first month, the fourth month, the seventh month, and the 10th month, those are the seasons: spring, fall, summer, and winter, right? Verse number 24, and Noah ordained them for himself as feasts for the generations forever, so that they have become thereby a memorial unto him. And on the new moon of the first month, he was bidden to make for himself an ark. And on the day the earth became dry, and he opened the ark and saw the earth. And on the new moon of the fourth month, the mouths of the depths of the abyss beneath were closed. And on the new moon of the seventh month, all the mouths of the abyss of the earth were open, and the waters began to descend into them. And on the 10th, and on the new moon in the 10th month, which will be winter, right? The tops of the mountains were seen, and Noah was glad. And on his account, he ordained for himself as feast for a memorial forever, and that's how they ordained. So even though even the new day of the new season is a feast day, right? This is what Noah was celebrating, right? And they placed them, and on this account, he ordained himself as feast for a memorial forever, and that's how they ordained. And they placed them on the heavenly tablets. Each had 13 weeks from one to another, past their memorial, from the first to the second, and from the second to the third, and from the third to the fourth. And all the days of the commandment will be 250 weeks of days, right? 52 weeks. And these will make an entire year complete. Thus it is engraved and ordained on the heavenly tablets, right? You see, when you read the Bible, it puts everything into context. When you read these books, they all go together. It puts everything in context. When you listen to a man just talking about the worldly stuff and you become part of the world, you're gonna get so lost. Same chapter, verses 31 through 38. It says, and there is no neglecting this commandment for a single year or from year to year, because when you neglect it, you'll get lost. And command thou to the children of Israel that they observe the years according to this reckoning, 364 days. And these will constitute a complete year. And they will not disturb its time from its days and from its feasts, for everything will fall out in them according to their testimony, and they will not leave out any day nor disturb any feast. But if they do neglect and do not observe them according to his commandment, that they will disturb all their seasons and their years will be dislodged from this order. And they will disturb the seasons and the years will be dislodged. They will neglect their ordinance. And all the children of Israel will forget and will not find the path of the years, and will forget the new moons and seasons and Sabbaths, and they will go wrong as to all the order of the years. For I know, and from henceforth I will declare it unto thee. And it is not of my own devising, for the book lies written before me, and on heavenly tablets the division of days is ordained, lest they forget the feast of the covenant, and walk according to the feast of the Gentiles, after their error and their ignorance. See, you're going to start following the Gentile feasts and stuff. For there will be those who will surely make observations of the moon, how it disturbs the seasons and coming from year to year, 10 days too soon. Because there's 10 days out of the year where the moon, you're not going to see it, right? For the reason the years will come upon them when they disturb the order and make an abominable day, the day of testimony, and the unclean day, a feast day, and they will confound all the days, the holy with the unclean, and the unclean day with the holy. For they will go wrong as to the months and Sabbaths and feasts and jubilees. For his reason I command and testify to thee, that thou mayest testify to them. For after thy death thy children will disturb them, so that they will not make the year 364 days only. And for this reason they will go wrong as to the new moons and seasons and Sabbaths and festivals, and they will eat all kinds of blood or all kinds of flesh. So he's saying, look, you added one day, it's going to change everything. You trying to follow the moon cycle is going to change everything. All that's going to change because now the math isn't equal. When they say that they're all going to fall in the same day and it's not going to stir one another, that's exactly what it means. Because the moon is missing for 10 days, right? So 354 divided by 7 is 30 point dash 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 something something something. That's not equal. So when you go by that, it throws everything off. So like I said, the Passover is on a Saturday, right? So now you got Passover on Saturday, and then guess what happened? You're going to turn around, Passover going to be Wednesday. Or like Easter, right? We don't celebrate Easter, but sometimes Easter's in April, sometimes it's in March. Right, and that's all because of the way the calendar is. Easter should be if Easter was really real based off the biblical calendar, it should be the same time. But they're going by the spring equinox or whatever they call it, right? But that's going to change every year because they're basing time off the moon, and not only that, they're basing time off adding an extra day into the calendar. Well, we don't add the extra day into the calendar. Yeah, we can use the 365 calendar because that extra day is actually the first day, right? But in their calendar, it's not the first day. It's just another day added to the calendar, and it throws you all off. Then you got leap year, where it skips even more because now you add another day. You add 2 days now because you had that day in February. That throws everything off. And now, but you're being thrown off, like I said, you're going to walk according to the feast of the Gentiles. You're going to walk to their ignorance, their order, all because you messed up on your days. So the Sabbath is very important. Let me show you in the calendar and break it down. So let's just say this is the calendar, and let's say we're just counting days. Not we're not going to do about we're going to do about nights too. But let's just say we're just doing days. So let's say it's 12 a.m. So Sunday, that's day one. Saturday, that's the seventh day, right? So when you wake up Saturday morning, like today, that's the Sabbath. 14 days, that'll be the Passover, right? The 21 days to that week, the 15th to the 21, that's the days of unleavened bread. After that, you count 7 days, you count seven Sabbaths. So you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then you get the Pentecost, which will be 7 weeks, right? But all this happened to you on the calendar. Even if you do the calendar the other way, let's say you do the calendar and this is from nighttime. So Saturday night is the first day, right? That'll be the first day, and the Sabbath will still be Friday, and then always stay that way. It'll never change, right? It's easy to just do it the days that you already see: Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. But the days technically start at nighttime. So the first Sabbath will be Friday night. The second Sabbath will be the next Friday night. The third Sabbath will start from Friday night, and they go from sundown to sundown. So Friday night to Saturday night, that's the Sabbath, right? But no matter how you look at it, it's always going to land on the same days. See, this is what I was talking about. This is the Jewish holidays, right? So depending on which day it is, it's going to change because it switches because of the years, right? So it says Purim Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Tuesday, right? And you got Passover the first day, Saturday and Sunday. Well, then if it's on Sunday, the next day is Monday, then Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday and Friday. All this is happening because they don't use the real calendar, right? They use Satan's calendar, adding this extra day. Tammuz, right? It says Sunday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. The fact that it says Tammuz is crazy. Rosh Hashanah, right? Like Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Those days should not change. Whatever day you think it's supposed to be on, it should be on that day, right? And all this is like Day of Atonement, tabernacles, trumpets, things like that. But that day should never change. But the problem is because they're basing off that moon calendar and it'll change, right? You don't want it to change, right? Look at this. The first month of the year in ancient Roman calendar was March. March is the first month. But in this world, they use January as the first month. You see where it says the original Roman calendar had 10 months, which March is the first, because they had these 2 months, which would be January and February, where they kind of skipped and just waited for the winter to pass through, right? It says the second king of Rome, Numa Pompilius, added January and February to the calendar to fill the gap in between the end of the year and the start of winter. So they wasn't even counting those 2 months. But that was when the winters was happening, where they wasn't doing too much, which makes sense. It's winter time, right? You ain't doing too much. But they adding stuff, right? They always adding and changing things, right? As you can see, Martius, 31 days, Aprilis, 30 days, Maya, 31 days, and so forth. But notice October, November, September, and December, right? Those are all numbers. September means seventh. Um, October it's 8, like an octagon. November is 9, right? It means 9 sides. December is like decade. It means 10 sides, right? But people are putting it together. In our world, December is the 12th month, but in reality, it's the 10th month, right? But all this happens when we get lost not following the Sabbath, right? A 364-day years appear in the ancient Enoch calendar and the Jubilees calendar, which are sacred solar calendars found in ancient Jewish pseudeographical texts and supported by texts among the Dead Sea Crossroads used by the Qumran community, right? Total days, 364. The number 364 divides into 7 equally. Gives you 52 weeks. It's not a problem. The season divided in 4 equal quarters, 91 days each. 30, 30, 31. 30, 30, 31. 30, 30, 31, which is 13 weeks, which we had just read, right? So the conclusion of the matter, right? Isaiah 66:23, it says, and it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me, says the Lord. This is a future prophecy. The Sabbath is always here. The Sabbath will never change, right? So when you look at this scripture again, you remember Exodus 20, verse 8. Remember the Sabbath day and to keep it holy. It's part of the 10 Commandments. Don't let nobody tell you otherwise, because anybody tells you otherwise, hey, they got a doctrine of demons, my friend. All right. So That was today's lesson. I'll see y'all again next time. Shalom. Peace.